this shit down and you talking. Huh? What's up? Oh, yeah.
Caesar.
What's up, man? What's up, then? Let's do something. Bring your mouth on, nigga. Shit, nigga, I'm telling you, my nigga, stop bumping your guards. Let's go ahead and do a little
Sharing your own perspectives and asking you.
What's up, nigga?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stu in the Nut, an online radio show and podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, a different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our chat room, via our Facebook page, and of course, on Twitter. Keep it funky.
Oh yeah, everybody, there we go. Keeping it funky, Toby. How you doing, brother?
We were not keeping it funky.
We
were keeping it effed up.
That was super funky.
That was 2 turntables and no microphone.
But
a hot mic.
It was a hot mic. My remix music,
do RTOs? Can RTO, is there like a cadence? Like, I got 2 turntables and a...
Well, I try to throw the mix music in there to give Rob, the unpaid producer, a hard time as YouTube keeps trying to shut us down every time we play copyrighted music. So, I forgot that part was leading in. We're running everything off tonight off one laptop, not off of 4 screens, not off a mixing board, because we are together in the southern studio down here.
The home
of Kermode
Outdoors.
That's right. You can partially see it, Georgetown, Texas. I'll screen it over there. Look at that. That's right. We are in the Kermode headquarters. Of course, Kermode being one of our primary sponsor here at Stu in the Nut, along with Veteran Outdoors.
Veteran Outdoors also proudly represented tonight.
That's
Kermode,
right.
But what's not on your screens, but always in our hearts, that's right. Alpha Elite Performance. Get your supplements. Green Beret, born and raised. My personal is...
I'm missing my detox this week.
Oh,
I didn't bring it with me.
You got to get you some detox.
Yes.
But my personal favorite is the Test 2X. Just get me strong like bull. That's right. And
Alpha Elite.
with that Elite 15.
What is that Elite 15? What's that do for you?
That's a promo code to save you at checkout. Brought to you by our family of Elite 15 athletes. That's right.
Alpha Elite Performance, another big sponsor of our show.
Yeah, and we got some others.
And Listen 9 Fight Company.
Maybe you've heard of them.
Maybe you have. We were talking to Colton the other day.
And he's coming into town this weekend for Colton's tour of Texas, where he's entered into a grappling competition, Submission Arts.
I know, I'm just missing him.
And then he's also doing some cool things, and you can find out about that at SAS Striking and Submission Martial Arts out of Killeen, Texas. You can learn about that there to get on any of the things for the seminars. Also, if you want to learn more about Enlisted 9 Fight Company, you can go to this little company that you've also probably heard of, 9 Line Apparel. And you can go to the collections, pull up the Enlisted 9 Fight Company collection, and get all your Enlisted 9 Fight Company love and shirts located there. But we're not here to pimp other people's products like Gear for Grunts.
Who's in the house tonight?
In the house,
right.
The CEO wearing his Spotlight Ranger limited engagement select performance.
Can we get a real world down? We're in studio. We can do everything we want. We're going to tune it over here.
Find this at Gear for Grunts.
Doug the Shard Mullen right there.
Are you a Spotlight Ranger?
Limited
engagement, select performances only. All the world indeed is a stage, and we are merely its players, performers, and portrayers. Neil Peart, no big deal. Maybe
Canadian Power Trio.
Maybe you've heard of them.
Yeah. So we got Gear for Grunts in the house tonight. We have Rob, the unpaid producer, also sporting his Gear for Grunts wear on. We got the Kermode, we got the Veteran Outdoors. We got it all going on. BooHammer.com. Everyone here tonight. So it is a show. We are so glad to be. We talked about this last week. Obviously, we're on a new night, Tuesday night, because it was a chance for us to do this. And and be here together. Everyone loves it when Toby and I are together. We're not stepping on top. Well, we probably still do, but there's no lag. We're messing with each other. We're just rolling with it, and we have a great show lined up for you tonight.
Well, it's because we have a guest.
We have a great guest. We don't normally have a guest when we're together.
No, this might be a first.
No,
Tim.
We've had
guys
Tim,
like,
Dr. Simpson.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since we've had a guest when we're together. So we're very glad to have
it's
him
like
on.
a threesome.
It is of testosterone.
Yeah.
Yes, which could be popular in some circles.
Not this one.
Not this one. Nope, not at all.
Because there's no jerks here.
Nope, and no circles. Anyways,
squares.
That's it. So with us tonight, we want to welcome onto our show, Mr. Mike Esparza. How you doing, Mike? He was
Hey guys,
He's
doing,
like,
doing good.
I got the
Gotcha.
noise discipline button on.
He's like,
Release the noise discipline button.
You guys want to hear my background noise? Yeah, I'm doing good.
Were you making popcorn, or like what were you doing in the background that we didn't want to hear?
Oh,
Were you singing cadence?
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
singing cadence. Yeah.
So our man here at Mike Epps _fit, if you follow him on the IGs or look him up on the IGs. So educator of young minds and wayward minds.
And at one point, a leader of young minds.
And a leader of young minds.
Yes, and now an educator of it. And we're so glad to have you on, man, tonight. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. It's also a lot of the mindless as well. It's a
Yeah.
mixture.
I can hear what you're saying.
Probably
I'm right here.
Probably in both career fields.
Yeah. But if you were looking at the promos of the show, you'll see our man was walking around with that very distinctive brown and round, crisply formed. That's right. Knife hand ready.
Knife hand right there.
Knife hand ready, and he's still got the guns. Look at him. Look, he's still like he's still.
He's got the.
He's got the drill flex going still.
Yeah.
I was listening to your guys' supplement pitch there.
Oh, did you knock out a party pump?
Huh?
Did you knock out a couple of party pumps?
I felt like it.
Did you get that motivated?
Dude, can't believe Alpha Elite, man. It's a solid product.
No,
we both use it. Yeah.
Good try.
I'm a strong supporter. As the old commercials used to say, the hair club. Shall we show them? Not only are we members, we're clients.
Yeah. Hey, you used to look like me, and then you had to grow it out and put me to shame and just show it off that you can still grow it out.
But Mike, give us a little bit about your background, brother.
Jeez, kind of a man of a lot of traits. Really.
You can start above the age of 10.
Above the age of 10. Oh, okay. Well, that changes a lot. Well, geez, after high school, I did some college, joined the military. After the military, I always wanted to be a business owner. I always thought being an entrepreneur would be a cool thing. So, and I got really into fitness. So I opened up a gym. I did that for a few years, really loved that. Finished up my degree. And then that's when I got the opportunity to go become a drill sergeant. So found a new passion in that. Getting paid to scream at people and rip souls, can't beat it.
Nope.
So
I mean, it's the American way, right?
it really is. I mean, people miss it, but man, you can't beat it. So I kind of just fell into teaching. It wasn't even something I was trying to do. I started as a substitute teacher, and I did coverage for this cadet corps program. And so the kids really liked it because when I covered the class, they were out there practicing drill and ceremony. And I told them, like, hey, I'm actually a drill sergeant. I can help you guys with this. Whereas most subs would just, sit on their butt and do nothing. So they told their teacher that they really liked working with me. So he started using me as a full-time sub. And then he got an opportunity to go to another school where I guess he was going to make a lot more money. And so he asked me if I wanted to take his job. And that's kind of how I fell into play. On top of that, I also coached track and cross country. Did that for about 8 years now, I think.
You can run with all that muscle?
Oh, man. You think it's crazy, but I can.
That's awesome.
A lot of people always think I'm a football coach. It's like, no, man, I suck at football. But, yeah, no, I love running. Yeah, I ran track and cross country in high school. So I'm really passionate about that.
Several years ago, I want to ask you, several years ago, Mike, I think it was still under the Bush administration, as we were getting a couple years into GWAT and everything, they were starting some programs for soldiers coming out, troops to teachers and all that kind of thing. And I always wondered, it was one of those things, I was like, that sounds good on paper, but I never could imagine that would have been a good thing. I just think of, guys and gals both, right, coming out of military and bottom line up front, and you do what you're told, and especially then you go through some combat together, and then you come out and you got some snot-nosed punk like mouthing off to you in this classroom or something. I always thought that seemed like a bad combination of just like, let's wholesale get guys and gals getting out of the military and throw them in front of kids in the classroom.
I mean, all I saw coming with that was like Major Pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like what's the dude? Peel. Like,
Key and Peele.
Key and Peele. You done messed up.
You meant AA Ron?
Yeah. You done messed up. So what's the funniest thing you did to a young recruit, an aspiring soldier?
That
you can't get arrested. Make sure the statute of limitations.
There's a lot of stories that go around about different things I've done. One time I had this podium, and one time I just picked it up and launched it across the classroom, and it just shattered. It was more for effect than actually, like, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody, but that was pretty funny just because the kids weren't paying attention. That's how I got their attention. And then later I had it fixed by the woodshop guy, and he put this metal framing all over it, so now it's like a fortress podium. A lot of kids talk about that. I probably shouldn't say too many things I've done because I haven't gotten caught for a lot of it. So
secret.
I just got my tenure. I'd like to.
Let's keep that going.
Secrets. Proprietary.
But how has it been? I want to go back to what I was talking about. How has it been coming from military to being a teacher? Did you find some of those challenges? Were there some times you just had to, maybe take a time out yourself and walk out in the hall?
Big time. I actually have. If you look at my classroom, I actually have tape around my desk. I call it my safe space. So they're not allowed within that space of my desk. And
because they're within arm's reach.
Do you make them buff it?
Is it?
Oh no, they're not. They're
little
not
Johnson
allowed.
paste wax.
Yeah, it's just like reflective tape. But I did it mostly just to be silly with them. But then I also realized I liked it because it kept them at a distance, and kids.
Was that something you learned as being a drill sergeant? I seem to remember, and I went to basic a long time ago. I seem to remember my drill sergeants if I did happen to get to go in their office in our bay, they had tape around that too, like so I wouldn't cross too close to their desk. I seem to remember that being.
Yeah, you really have to have those barriers because otherwise they're just going to do whatever they want.
Right.
We had the whole front of our base separated, and it was called the kill zone.
Yeah, we had that too.
And you
didn't go there.
You did not.
Yeah.
So
if you walked in, somebody had to crawl out. That was basically the rule.
Yeah. Right. So it. So have you? That gives you a place to kind of retreat back to, and just like take a breath and like just give me.
So I've told my students before that if I'm at my desk and I have my music on, that probably means I don't want to be bothered. So they kind of know.
Especially if it's like Norwegian death metal or something. It's like
if it's something hard, then they're like, oh, he's in a bad place right now. Let's give him his space.
Got like Lamb of God playing in the background.
Exactly.
No, I've actually got a really great group as far as my cadets go. When I came in, it was pretty ate up, but it's pretty much on autopilot now. I just actually graduated some really incredible cadets this year, which was a little heartbreaking for me because that means I got to start working again next year. But the program really developed a lot. We actually became state champions a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And before that, no one even knew who we were. So really great kids. And, a lot of people are asking me, it's like, well, how do you go about turning a school around like that? What do you do? It's like, really, I just get out of their way. You basically find out who the good leaders are, the ones who are ambitious. Sometimes it's the troubled kids, and all you really got to do is just give them some responsibility, show them you trust them, teach them a few things, and then let them run with it. So a lot of people, they can't get out of their own way. They're too into themselves. They want to do everything by themselves and take credit for everything. It's like, no, this is for the kids. Get out of your way, or get out of your own way, get out of their way, and just let them be successful on their own. Because especially after high school, you're not going to follow them around and wipe their ass for them. They're going to have to figure it out themselves.
Do you think it's adults that are trying to live vicariously through them, or just think they have to do everything for them?
Which I think that's something common with military. There are a lot of military guys like that they kind of want to keep that credit for themselves. So yeah, kind of like what you're saying. You find that a lot in coaching too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's better to just kind of be. It sounds funny for anyone that knows me because I'll say, well, you got to be humble and just like let the kids take the credit. But I'm that guy who talks shit all the time and always tells everybody how great my program is. But I do that mostly just to piss people off.
Now, when you're successful with those competitions, so hypothetically, other sports, when you do well in those, it comes with like financial gain, like for the program. like increase in funding, like band, right? Like when band does stuff like that, they earn credits, towards new instrumentation.
Trips and
like
whatever.
football, it comes crazy in Texas anyway. It comes crazy. Like programs like that, do they benefit? So like that
Most
kind of
the time,
exposure.
yes. My program, no. I don't really know why, but we're kind of like the redheaded stepchildren of the school. So we don't have any school funding at all. I've actually requested school funding before. It always gets shot down. One time it was approved, and then all of a sudden the next year the funds just seem to have disappeared. So that's kind of a weird thing, is we don't really get a whole lot of support when it comes to that. So we do a lot of fundraising on our own, and then I kind of look at, so I get stipends for coaching, and I get stipends for doing cadet corps. So I have no problem spending that stipend money on the kids. Sometimes I'll spend money to do different things. Like I have like Challenger coins that I'll award them if they do something cool. Like we just had graduation, so a lot of the clubs they have the cords and they have the sashes.
Right.
So I have sashes custom made for them, which a little more expensive than you would think. They're like $70 each or something, but it's cool. It's cool for the kids, especially when they're really nice. So and they deserve it. I don't have a problem spending money on that stuff. It'd be nice.
Just
if I
like
could
in the
get
military,
school
everybody likes a little bling on their uniform, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it'd be great if we could get school funding, but we don't get school funding. The state, we live in California. We got a total dumbass for a governor, so there's not really any money in this state.
Is there like a defund the JROTC program going on? Like they marching against y'all?
I think JROTC program is doing a little bit better. They actually get federal funding. So our program is Cadet Corps, which is all state run. It's like the difference between the National Guard and the regular active duty military. So yeah, funding's a little bit tight.
I misunderstood that. Sorry.
So the ages that you teach, are you high school? You're all high school, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the program starts in middle school, but I teach high school, so it's 9 through 12.
Is the Cadet Corps for like troubled youth or for youth that need?
We definitely attract those kids. When I first got there, they were using it as like, we had tons of freshmen, which were like kind of like, I don't want to say the low-life freshmen, but yeah, the kids that just don't care. They have straight Fs in all their classes. They basically show up just to do nothing. So that was the first step, was trying to get rid of those kids, and that was a process. I would have loved it if I could have just, pulled a lean on me like Morgan Freeman, gone in there and just said, you have her expelled, but that's just not the world we live in today. So that was tough, slowly getting rid of these kids and having to prove to the administration that they are actually causing a nuisance on the good kids and, causing way more bad than good. So that was a big process. But yeah, I think there are a lot of schools that do that, where they just automatically put, like you would say, the troubled youth or just the knuckleheads inside of a military program, because they have the assumption that, we'll put them in the military class and that's going to give them maturity and straighten them out. It's like, well, yeah, if they buy into it, but our hands are pretty tied when it comes to that. It's not like when someone actually enlists as an adult into the military, where we can pretty much do whatever we want, well, within reason, do what we want to them. But as kids, they're still kids. So and it's funny, a lot of these parents, they don't care about their kids until they feel like someone disciplined them or something, and then all of a sudden they want to get involved and pretend like they care. So
that's interesting you put that, right? So the kids get in trouble, that they get called, your kids cussed out the teacher, whatever, nothing really happens, but the second something really does, punishment happen, then all of a sudden they're like ready to be on the PTA. Right?
Oh yeah, completely. I've been in my VP's office so many times with kids' parents, and they like, well, why would you say this to my kid, or why would you do that? And it's like, I'd love to say like, well, yeah, your kid's a piece of shit, but you can't really say that. You kind of gotta clean it up and say, hey, I know your little angel is important to you, but they're just not performing in the classroom is the way they obviously perform at home, which they're perfect angels, I'm sure.
Those must have been some of those good skills and tact and professionalism you learn in the military to it's like you look at that officer and be like, I'm not going to tell you what I think. Engaging with officers definitely helps with that experience. Yeah.
So
engaging with officers helps engaging with kids or with parents?
It really does.
Yes.
Dealing with officers feels a lot like dealing with kids and snotty parents. So yeah. It definitely helps.
I think that would hold you.
I think he was talking to someone specific.
Yeah, sitting behind the camera. Yeah, our token officer.
Yeah.
We-
Whoa. Whoa. It's a lot of hate tonight.
I'm just saying. But yeah, so teaching in California and being involved with the schools over this last year, obviously California has no shyness in grabbing headlines and so on and so forth. You kind of express your opinions on your governor, but they've gotten a lot. They've had some viral videos from restaurant owners and things like that. When you look at this year of COVID and all that kind of stuff, how has it been there? What have you seen? I mean, obviously there's a state stuff, but at the local level, schools handle things the way they handle it. Have you been, what's been your feedback? Is it they could have done a lot better? They try to do things right within their abilities, or how's it been?
It's, how would I put that? How do I put that tactfully?
I tried to keep it open to give you a lot of wiggle room. So
yeah.
I mean, because again, the governor may put out stuff, but the local school, the school administration
definitely.
may.
So there's some school districts that I think handled it the right way.
Yeah.
We're definitely extremely on the liberal side over here. So there are some districts that allowed the kids to come back to school, and they did the hybrid program where the kids come into campus 2 times a week or something like that. That's what I was hoping we were going to do. We did not. We were in a district where we stayed closed for a whole year. I think they're even staying closed for summer school, I believe, and then supposedly next year we're going to reopen. As far as what I've seen from that, it's absolutely horrible. I think the kids need to be in school. I've seen depression skyrocket from these kids. I made an argument in a staff meeting one time. It's like if you really cared about these kids, you put them back in the classroom. It's all the facts point to that COVID is not at all high risk for these kids. So what the hell are we really doing? And I've talked, like you said, that there's a lot of like in this program, we do get some of those. How would you say, like, not really at-risk kids, but kids that really need something. They're really searching for something. Maybe they don't have the best home life. So to take those kids out of the program where they feel like they finally found a family and then force them to stay at home, they're not going to perform. They're not going to do well. Without
the social interaction and maturing of the social skills and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of kids, especially in San Bernardino, they don't go to school to get an education. They go to school so they can, see their friends, and they feel safer at school than they do at home a lot of times, which is unfortunate. I hate it, but it's just kind of the sad truth of this world. So you take that away from them, you're putting them in a bad situation, and it's not like they get to do that year over. It's like we have a lot of kids who they close the schools at the end of some kids' freshman year, and then they lose their entire sophomore year. So now these kids are basically, it's almost like they're coming from 8th grade and jumping into their junior year now. Right. They missed the whole first 2 years of development that they would have gotten in high school. And I think we're going to see some pretty bad flashback from that when we start school next year.
So there's a lot of information out there. Why is it, do you think, that your school district in particular is it because they started the year a certain way, they want to be consistent, or do you think there's political pressure for them to go a certain direction, or is it the parents? No, here's the thing: is I'm in an exceptionally conservative school district, but the parents their politics and their position on COVID didn't always marry up. And so so a lot of times you could tell a person's politics by how they feel about COVID or how they treat COVID or their behavior, which I find just crazy on its face. But people, there are different motivations, and I saw very conservative people that were just deathly afraid, pardon the pun, of COVID. And then I also saw some liberal people that were very laissez-faire about it. So parents, obviously we're talking about kids, but now that there's some pretty solid, can we use the word science?
Yeah, you can say science.
Why do you think because I think we're fully open right in Texas. Mm-hmm. Where mask mandates have been lifted, and schools are encouraged to be but yeah, we graduated out last weekend. So,
Right.
so most people on break. But beginning of next year, I think everything's just
That's
back to the old
Republic of Texas, yeah. But California's been kind of like New York, where I live, right? It's really been kind of holding to, the way the policies were all of the last year. And New York has opened up some, they're now maskless for those that have been vaccinated or claim they are. But there's other states and other places, and honestly, they're leaving it up to, including here in Texas, they're leaving it up to what it should have been, up to the businesses and the people. If the business wants to make you wear a mask, then the consumer can decide whether they want to, you go to that establishment.
The right way, in other words.
Do you think California's going to get that way?
I don't know.
Especially with the governor facing a recall or potential.
Yeah, I think Newsom's really scared right now. His beloved auntie can't protect him forever. So it looks like I think he's on his way out. I think people are finally fed up. It took 3 tries to get him out. I personally signed all of them. I don't like what the guy's done because I think all he does is hurt the state. I think with the businesses, kind of like what you said earlier, it should be left up to, I've always felt that way. It's like, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. You shouldn't be forced to wear a mask. And with the business, on the other hand, it's like, well, this is a private business. So if you want to force people to wear masks as a business, you can do that. And if I don't agree with that, then I just won't go to your business.
Yep.
That's the way things should be. But I don't like, the government forcing everybody to do that. And I just thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah, the whole, concept of our founding fathers and the rights and freedoms that we have and doing that. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says it's government job to keep us safe.
Right.
There's even people that argued about, my body, my choice, something like that. I don't know. I've heard that somewhere before. But you talked about Governor Newsom and being on his way out. He's got some contenders coming in to fill his job. And Caitlyn Jenner's getting a lot of press, probably because of just his or her background. But kind of it's been turned on against a lot by the left, because obviously a lot of people on the left think that, you should go one way or believe one way if you, and to think of a transgender being conservative seems to really, in my opinion, seems to highlight the, some of the people on the left and their hypocrisy. But I know in the national media we see here on him on Fox, I don't know what to call him or on Fox and this and that, and different media, Fox Business, and being interviewed, Tucker Carlson. Is Caitlyn getting that kind of interest in California? Is that as popular as we see on the national stage?
I really think that as far as Caitlyn Jenner running, if there's a state that Caitlyn Jenner is going to win, it's going to be California. We have the kind of people that Californians are stupid as hell. We don't know politics. We don't know anything. We don't know our right from our left.
Good thing you're tenured.
Idiot. Yeah, we're the laughing stock of the country. If there's one state to get rid of to make the United States better, it would be blow up the borderline and send California out just like an Escape from LA. Hopefully I can get out before that happens.
We say that about the downstate New York too. We're like, anything south of Poughkeepsie could just be cut off.
Yeah. But so, yeah, if he, she, whatever, Caitlyn, really wants to go, into politics, this would be the state to do it, because the Californians would probably, vote him in. I honestly, personally, I don't give a crap if the dude's a transgender, gay, woman, black, white. All I care about is your policies, and that's the way it should be. It's like, well, what are your policies?
That's a crazy position to have.
I know. It's not popular, and I say that being very cautious and careful, because it's a horrible thing to feel.
You would consider supporting someone based on what they want to do in terms of leadership?
Yeah, how they would actually do their job. Yeah. It's an ancient theory, really.
Did it die with the Mayans, or like?
I'm not a history teacher, but it's possible.
I mean, it's such a, we were talking beforehand, some of these things, like, it's crazy how they just become so tribal. Like, the protection of our children shouldn't be tribal. The protection, like how we live our lives should not
freedoms,
be, that should not be tribal. Like, the freedom of speech should not be tribal. But it's what did my cousin say? It's baloney. What did he say? It's Prince Harry.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know who that is. That's he's on some show with Oprah, right?
Yeah, but he said this, like freedom of speech is like unpaid producer.
Unpaid producer is looking that up right now. Watching him work.
But we shouldn't, it shouldn't be tribal like that. It should be like, hey, what's important to you? What weighs on your heart? What weighs on your soul? What impassions you? If you're an educator, I would hope children impassion you. I hope, like giving them good opportunity impassions you. I hope you fight for that opportunity to like mold that. That should be what's important, not, So he said it was bonkers. Prince Harry said the First Amendment was bonkers. That you would just let people say what's on their mind. Because someone might say something that's unintelligent, or
They might use the word bonkers.
the opposite. They might use the word bonkers. So, tell us a little bit more about how. So I spent a little bit of time out in California while serving, and I tried like squeaking in some education while I was there, and I was based out of the Bay Area, and like I found that obviously I was in the minority. How is it like? So one, I imagine you have to be, as an educator, you're expected to be very objective, right? And you're supposed to be like very like neutral. But what's it like having to navigate
if you're conservative, that? You are, yeah. It really depends. I know that there's other conservative teachers on campus, but they're all extremely quiet about it, very hush-hush. I'm a little more, I don't go around preaching to everybody that I'm conservative, but it's pretty obvious, I think. Whereas other teachers, they will just super liberal. They'll play videos in their classrooms that like, there's a lot of manipulation that goes on in that way. I actually, my son goes to the school and he would actually record some things like, Dad, you wouldn't believe what they're teaching today. And he would show it to me. I was like, wow, this is insane. So it really just depends on what you're putting out there. I was attacked this year because for being a conservative, and I had to go on, administrative leave for 2 months, and they wouldn't let me, teach my kids. They made me sit out an entire year of coaching because I'm conservative. And
were there parents that made accusations against you? I mean, or
it was actually the whole thing was set up by kids, by a bunch of students on campus that basically just didn't like my politics. They're all extremely far left, and they didn't like the fact I am an influential person, unfortunately. So there are a lot of kids that like to ask me questions because I'm more open-minded. So I won't tell them like, well, this is right and this is wrong. If they'll say something, be like, well, let's look into it. Let's look at both sides. And I used to teach Avid, and we would have debates in class, and we would put out the facts. I would have people actually argue against what they believed, so they could see the other side of it. So I would tell everybody, it's like, the best argument is an informed argument. You have to know both sides of what the argument is. That's how you really win. A lot of people didn't like that.
I have this conversation with my kids a lot, and everyone thinks it's it like spawned when they were like really really young. When my kids want to talk about something, I tell them to use their words, and and I'm not saying that because I'm like trying to belittle them, or infuriate them. The reason why I say use your words, and everyone in my house understands when I say, use your words, it means that if you can't defend your position with words, if you can't explain your position and defend it with words, you don't have one. You just have a reaction.
That's usually where the accusations start coming in.
If you can't, with a calm demeanor, defend your position with words.
And sadly, that's not just kids. That's a lot of adults.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And you trigger them. You're like, let's talk facts.
They're going to become the adults. So
right. They would make the last administration. They'd make it. President Trump's racist. All right, tell me what did he do that's racist? He's just racist. F you, whatever. Just like, tell me. Like, just talk it out. Have civility. let's have open conversation. They can't do it, and it's a lot of
And
reproducing voting.
You have a lot of
adults.
teachers openly telling their kids that, like when Trump was president, there's a lot of teachers telling their students that, like, oh yeah, we have a racist president. It's like now that we have, Biden and Harris in there, if I was to go on and start bad-mouthing them, I'd probably get in trouble for it, but so that kind of says something.
You'd probably
about
get
it
a
right
couple
there.
more months worth of leave there.
Probably would get a couple more months. Yeah. So it's pretty disturbing how that, how that's going, and just the way that these kids are being
Indoctrinated.
yeah, at a very young
That's-
age, and it doesn't start in high school. It starts much earlier now.
Yeah.
And I tell people, it's like, it starts with the parents. If you have good parents, they can protect you from all this false information you'll get in schools, because they'll teach you actually how to properly educate yourself, how to keep an open mind, and how to stay cool, calm, and collected. But unfortunately, parents are starting to suck these days. So you don't have good parents, and then you go to school, you're not prepared for it, and you just eat up whatever you're told. So, the first problem is always going to start in the household, but the second problem is going to be in the school, because that's where these kids spend the majority of their time. And then by the time they're adults, they're just molded for idiocracy. That's actually a movie I used to show to my kids.
It's a classic.
And I was like, guys, it's a comedy, but unfortunately, this is actually very accurate. So,
So, Mike, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is because you kind of have like this unique perspective. And the reason why I say it's unique, a drill sergeant in the service, their goal, their task is indoctrination in a very short period of time, to educate on the historical value of things, to teach and implement drill and ceremonies so you can move a unit effectively from point A to point B. The way that you talk, you are taught to speak with a certain tonality. You're taught to speak with a special cadence so that, words and commands register. There is a form, I don't want to use the term brainwashing, but there's a formula. There's a magic secret, not secret sauce, but there's a magic potion that you learn in drill sergeant school to present. You modulate, you learn how to modulate and get yourself squared away to do that. Now I know there's not modulation 201 in the university system, but do you see similarities by the way that you were taught in the military to present information so that it is retained with a certain understanding to how you see your counterparts as educators presenting information to have that information retained with a certain perspective?
For me, I would say absolutely not. I would say it's actually the opposite. When I was a drill sergeant, the way I taught all my privates, I focused on motivation. That was always the biggest part. You got to stay motivated all the time. Pride is a huge part. You have to believe in yourself. You have to love yourself, and you have to love what you're doing. You have to do it with a purpose. And then of course it's responsibility. But if you can really get that in somebody, you're giving them a reason to get up every day and just kill it. And that was always the biggest thing for me. And that's the same way I work with my cadets, and I've gotten results with it. The way our school system is working and society is working is basically teaching them that they are supposed to feel sorry for themselves. That's unfortunately how it is today.
That they're
It's
victims of something.
There's teachers that do this thing. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like a what do you call it? It's like a privilege walk or something like that. They take all their students out and have them stand in a straight line, and they say, okay, if you have a cell phone, take a step forward. Okay, if you have this, take a step forward. And then they just have these kids take steps for all these things. And then the further forward you are, the more privilege you have. The further back you are, the more you don't have. And so right away, it's like, what is this exercise supposed to do other than, make some kids feel guilty because they have, I guess, they have nicer things, and then make other kids feel like losers because they don't. There's literally no positive aspect to that exercise.
Well, it's a shame. It's a shaming ass. It's a shaming exercise.
Yeah, it's kind of shaming. But what they're actually trying to do is saying, see, the world is set up against you. So instead of teaching them, you need to work hard, get what you feel you're worth, these old, mentalities that, we were raised on, they don't believe in that anymore. Now it's like, no, be mad that you don't have these things that you should have. And especially if you're not white, like being white is like the worst thing.
I was going to ask you about critical race theory. It sounds like it's a basis of what CRT is all about. And, the whole concept of that's right now all in the news, which is that they're wanting to teach in schools, right? Which is if you're anything but white, everyone at white is racist and you're a victim.
Well, being a white Caucasian in America right now is like the worst thing you can be. And I used to teach Avid, and I remember I would tell my kids, it's like, as long as you're not a white, a white male, there are tons of scholarships and grants out there for you. If you are a white male, then unfortunately, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and actually either get stupid good grades, be an amazing athlete, or pay your way, because there's no scholarships for you.
It's funny you say that. One of my sons went to school at the Citadel, and when he graduated, and he's went on and done great things. He has said that if he ever gets rich enough where he can sponsor a scholarship, he is going to put together a scholarship whose whole qualification is a white male. Are the only people can apply to it, because it'd be the first scholarship of its kind, where they can apply.
Could you imagine how he'd be attacked for that?
Yeah,
just like the very idea of it, Right.
He's also, but this is a kid that growing up made Bill O'Reilly look like he was part of the AOC squad. He was so ultra left. I don't know where he got it from or how it happened. I mean, it's so ultra right. He's super conservative, and he is convinced that if he can make millions and make a lot of money, he's going to sponsor scholarships for white males, because there was no opportunity given to him and anyone else. And he saw a lot of other folks that had pretty much everything covered because of some characteristic about them as a human being.
See, what's frustrating about that exercise, I kind of want to go back to that exercise for a second, Mike. None of the participants in that exercise have their own accolades. They don't have their own achievements.
What they have is what's given to them.
What makes them? So like, and not because of privilege, well, because they're prepubescent. Like they're kids, they're minors. Like they don't have the opportunity yet to make an achievement. Like,
did your parents give you a phone?
Like,
did your parents give you a car?
Right, but it's not just did your parents do it. What did your parents do to make that possible? Like what hard work? So yesterday I had a little bit of a travel scenario, and I ended up having to take an Uber at 2:30 in the morning from Dallas Fort Worth Airport to Love Field. And I was concerned about like the quality of Uber I was going to get
2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning on a Monday night. And I ended up getting this guy whose name came up as Shazam. And like I was
on
like,
your Uber app?
Yeah. Like, and I was like,
yep, 2:30 in the morning.
I was like, here we go, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up like, so this dude's parents came from Pakistan. He was raised in the Chicago area, and he had moved from Chicago by himself to Dallas specifically to be a rideshare driver because of the opportunity. And like him and I had like a really good conversation, and we talked about what our parents did. And my dad was born and raised on the prairies of Canada, and the crops failed several years, and they ended up working in a lumber camp. They had horse teams, and they logged, and my dad at 10, 11 years old was like a laborer with my grandfather. And his parents, they had to find the opportunity, and they came to this country because they found that opportunity. I came to this country because I was presented the opportunity to find opportunity. And you don't see what people did to provide that to it. Because if you put the adults on the road, like on that line, and say, who here worked 3 jobs to pay for their college, take 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
Who here, like had a food budget of $5 a week or less so that they could afford their textbooks? Who here did an apprenticeship under a dude that was like malicious and like made you work extra hours? Take 2 steps forward. And what you would find is the people at the head of that out front are the guys and gals that are legitimately out front in success, because they took the opportunity of effort to equate to the like where the success is where effort and opportunity meet. That's where they're forward. But to ask a kid that hasn't had the opportunity to achieve anything, when you like what's a kid achieved? Well, I caught a 3-pound bass.
Does that make you privileged? I'm not sure.
My mom's concerned about me, so she makes sure that I have this electronic tether. Like, is that privilege, or are you just loved? Are you cared for? Are you concerned about? So like, just that exercise on face value is like, and I saw it done with college kids. I've watched a YouTube video where they did it with college kids, and it's like college kids don't have that either.
They haven't accomplished shit either.
They haven't accomplished shit
Not
either.
if they've truly come out of school and right into college.
No, I like your point where you said like to try and teach that. Every now and then phones ring with like motivational music, just to keep us sharp.
Yeah.
The quiet on the set. But
they're really promoting laziness, and it's unfortunate. Laziness and entitlement. The people that are saying are entitled are not. They're saying like, oh, you're privileged and entitled. Like, no, they're not. They just have parents who work their asses off, and now they're getting set off on the right. They're getting a nicer start. And that's great. That's good for them. They shouldn't feel guilty about it. It's like, well, I shouldn't feel guilty because my parents came from another country, worked their asses off. There's, it's like if you look at a lot of these, like a lot of Hispanics who are doing really well, a lot of their parents worked in the fields. A lot of them, they worked in the fields. Like that movie McFarland, that's a true story about these kids who would work in the fields, go to school, then go back to the fields. It's people have overcome amazing things, and those are the kids that actually grow up to really bring something to society. And now what we're teaching them is, no, be lazy. People should just give you stuff. The people that have already made it, they should pay your way. You shouldn't have to do anything. If somebody's rich, it doesn't matter what they had to do to get rich. They should pay for you to go to college. They should pay all this money. You should get a job at McDonald's and make $20 an hour. Even though you're only 16, and you should be getting this amazing wage.
And you have no skill except knowing to drop the basket in until the buzzer comes off and pull the basket out. Shake it, and don't stick your hand in the hot grease. That's about the biggest challenge there is.
So the state of Texas actually has a really cool education program. And, I'm not bringing this up because, I'm very pro-Texas, But so the state of Texas has a policy that if you are in the top 10% of your class, you are granted admission in any of the major public universities. That the University of Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Texas State. I think Baylor, even though it's a private school, is included in that program. As I think TCU might also be included in that program. But here's the thing: is you're not 10% of the entire class throughout the state, 10% of your class. And that's this wonderful incentive that says if you work harder than the people around you, we're going to reward you with admission.
Regardless of your color or political affiliation. That's not even a question. It's
not a question. If you're in the top 10% of your class, you are rewarded by your effort.
Hard work reaps rewards.
Yeah. There's a lot of freedom on the other side of hard work. Right. And there's some wonderful kids that are getting opportunities, and it has nothing to do with what their parents did, who their parents are, how they got to school, which conveyance brought them there, be it yellow with black stripes, or if it was like, a low-rider Mercedes with AMG, on the back of it. It doesn't matter how you got there. It's what you did when you were there. And that's the great equalizer. And that's one of the things I loved about being in the military. You were rewarded by potential and performance. And it was a performance-based promotion system. Like if you didn't earn the points, you didn't make the cut.
You didn't do the correspondence courses. Yeah. You didn't go to the schools. You didn't do this kind of stuff. You didn't have the points to get promoted.
And I love like a merit-based system. And
which is what our country's always been from the days of the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression and everything. You worked hard. We all hear these stories of grandparents and great grandparents that went through this terrible time and just fought their way back, and whether they were first generation ones or lived here a long time and just went through depressing times, and they became successful in some way, or just had a good, they didn't be rich, just had a good life because they provided. Because what do we do as parents? We all try to give our kids opportunities and chances and things, not spoil them, but give them things so they don't need anything, right? They should not to want anything, and give them opportunity to be successful and make it for themselves or break for themselves. And so, like you said, if a kid stepped forward, if they got these things, it's because their parents probably worked really hard and were able to say, you know what, I didn't have crap growing up. I took the bus every day. I had to wear hand-me-downs for my older brothers. I'm going to make sure my kid never has to go through that because I felt shamed or I didn't like it and I don't think that was fair. That's what we're supposed to do as parents, but not spoil them. And some definitely cross over, right? Some just hand gifts and hand stuff to think that makes up for lack of love and lack of care in the home. But for the most part, kids that have something get it because their parents are able to do it and they're happy to do it because the kid's probably making good grades, is a decent character, helps out around the house, is involved with their community, something like that.
Yeah. No, I remember my dad. I asked him, for parenting advice when I was becoming a dad, and my dad said my job. He had a couple of things, but he's like, your main job as a father is to provide the best that you can, and your goal should to be able to do it better than what I gave for you. And then a couple years later, I went back, and my immaturity, thought of it in immaterial ways, and my dad corrected me. Like where I grew up in Canada, you got into school if your parents financially could make that happen, or you were on the top echelon of your class. And I was not. I mean, clearly I'm a knuckle-dragging infantry guy. I didn't have the chops, and then my dad, being raised by a single dad, we didn't have the money for me to go to school. And that's why I came to the United States. And then when we had that conversation a little bit later, he's like, it's not that you should be able to provide a vehicle for your kid when he turns 16. It's like, I couldn't provide college for you, but you can provide college for your kids. You can give them a better opportunity,
right?
And give them more keys to success. It's not that you gave them Air Jordans when they wanted basketball shoes versus Chuck Taylors, the opportunity and that.
I gotta say, Mike, I'm sure you see across the gamut. You've got to see both sides of that. You've got to see the parents that are like that have those principles and values, and you got to see the ones that look at teachers as babysitters and just throw their kid whatever just to keep them pacified.
Oh yeah, big time. I get a lot more parent interaction with coaching, but
because they all have an opinion on how you should coach.
No, I've only run into a couple parents like that, surprisingly. But no, they actually talk about just how much their kids love the program and how it's insane to them that kids would actually love running, but it's like you give some, that's what I say about pride, you give kids something to be proud of, and they're going to do well with it. I was going to say something about what you guys were talking about earlier, with this whole privilege thing. One of the biggest ones they did on that I disliked was they said, if you have a father, step forward. And this is something that I think a lot of kids are crippled on, because now, there's a ton of illegitimacy going on. There's a lot of kids being raised without fathers now, and it's a horrible thing. But to tell a kid that he is not going to make it in this world because he doesn't have a father, and then another thing you see is because they have that attitude, they're going to go off and have a bunch of kids themselves, and they're not going to be fathers for them because they're going to have that attitude. Well, my dad didn't stick around for me, so why should I stick around for them? It makes them almost, I think hateful. And, you should be giving the attitude that you're going to make it anyway. It's like when you do make it, that should be a sense of pride on something that you were able to overcome. Teaching kids to overcome something, overcome difficulty, because that's what adulthood is. We overcome difficulty all the time. You don't ever, there is no finish line really until we're done. Yeah. So you always have to be ready for that challenge. And by teaching that to kids early and teaching them to accept those challenges and take them on, I think that's what they should be doing, but that's not what they're doing at all. They're doing the complete opposite. They're crippling these kids, and unfortunately, it's something as horrible as not having a dad that they're crippled on.
You just you said something that just really kind of struck a note with me, because I was and everyone can laugh at me. I was watching like the TikToks and the reels, the IG reels with the kids the other day, and there's this one that's like super viral and popular right now, and it's people showing and there's a song that goes with it, and I wish I could give a rendition of the song, but the premise of this video is that you show where you met something, and it's like, oh, to the guy that I hooked up with on my summer vacation, to the lifeguard I had a crush on, and then it fast forwards to a kid, and the insinuation is like,
you had a kid, you got pregnant.
You got like, and I didn't tell you, and now I'm letting you know that you're a dad through TikTok, through the reels, and like and I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, what the hell are we watching? Like I've never wanted to hit my kids, but I almost contemplated in that moment. You're like, what are we watching?
It's promoted by My Teenage Pregnancy.
But then it was like, not only did we just normalize it, we glamorize the fact that, hey, let's go out, and do this, and now I'm very hypocritical. Like, I hold myself to account here, but like, maybe that's why I took it so personal. It's like, man, I wish that I didn't start my kids in life some of the ways that I did. And we shouldn't be celebrating on TikTok. It shouldn't be like, I'm going to do this for like the viral aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I see a shift in like, because like back in the day, like that. Unsat.
It was absolutely didn't talked about. It didn't mean it didn't happen.
You sure as hell didn't make a viral video to like a pop song. Like,
right. Yeah.
But anyway, I digress.
No.
Mike.
Well, there's another thing too that you're talking about the kids and the pregnancy. The idea that a minor can go get an abortion and the doctor doesn't have to tell the parents. I don't like that.
That's
I
as
think
wrong
that's
as wrong as tits on a bull right there.
The school system is also involved in that.
Well,
there's that if sexual things happen, that you're not allowed to tell the parents about it. There was an instance where I knew that there were students that were involved, that were intimate with each other, and one of them had an STD. And it's like, well, we got to tell this, the parent of this one that this happened. It's like, no, we're not allowed to.
I believe the DEERS program should be in full effect. The Korea DEERS program should be in full effect. You get an STD like while you're like in Korea, like anywhere. So de-roast anywhere, right? Like you get an STD on an unaccompanied tour. The first thing that happens is the entire family's notified.
Yeah.
Like. So like guys in Korea, and I'm saying this with a smile because like it was always funny to see that dude, like the harsh reality. They're out there juicy girling it up, getting like up in the Olympus Club, finding that Russian, that perfect 10. Yeah, and then they get like the.
That's why they call it the DEERS program, because they look like a deer's in a headlight when the command tells them we're telling the family. They're like,
and then it's like, oh, what? Like you go and see Doc, and you're like, man, like there's this tingle, but it's more of a burn, like
when I tinkle.
And so like if you could give me the penicillin, and he does, like a champ and like a brother should, gets that virus clean up in that guy, and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, reported. It's like,
tell everybody.
And
hey man, humiliation works. I'm just saying, it really does.
But it's not just humiliation; it's accountability. Like,
oh yeah,
you're entered into a contract. You're entered into a contract with your partner.
But those are adults. As a child, where you have parents that are accountable and responsible to raise you until the age that you get 18 and become an adult. They're responsible for your safety, right, with feeding you, right? How many kids, I know your kids, you know, like, you got to do this, I don't got to do nothing but food in your belly and put a roof over your head. Everything else is optional, right? But they have to provide for you, for the schools not to tell the parents or make sure they know that, hey, your kid was caught, you know, shagging it on the bleachers, or your kid's got an STD or was with someone that did. I mean, that to me is criminal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. California, man, we actually voted for this. So, you know, it's like they actually vote this idiot stuff into law. It's like, I see this stuff on ballots. I'm like, who the hell's going to vote for this? And then it passes.
That's why Alpha Elite left California with the Texas.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's why a lot of industries left. Not just, you know, for fiscal things, but
we just saw from the latest census, right? New York and California both lost the biggest amount of delegates because they're getting out of those states.
But it, like to Mike's point, you know, they're bitching about the price at the pump.
Oh yeah.
But they voted for the price at the pump. I'm not talking presidential. I'm talking like in California, they voted, you know, to exercise more taxation on fuel itself, which was tripling the cost of the fuel, and they were like, acceptable, man.
So they got to pay for it.
I saw a gas station price on my Uber ride, as a matter of fact, earlier today, that said $2.98, and I thought the world was coming to an end. Like, how the hell are we almost at $3 in Texas?
Yeah.
And you know,
what's it at California? I heard it's $4.99.
Like $4.50, man. We're almost at $5.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In San Diego, $5.
Yeah, $5. But even New York's not. We're like $2.80, maybe $2.85. Yeah.
That's my weight, by the way.
But hey, Mike, we covered a lot. We've been going for a minute, like over an hour. We've been talking a lot about things. Is there anything else you want to cover? Anything we didn't mention that you want to make sure our readers and viewers know about, or any initiative or any program that's near and dear to your heart?
And when he says readers, like, we do a Braille version of this podcast.
Oh, listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about it.
There's like,
hey, I'm still trying to figure out why they have Braille on a drive-up ATM. I'm just saying.
Hey, it's.
Why do they have Braille on a drive-through ATM? Hey, let me reach across you.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mike, go ahead.
No, you know, just not all Californians are idiots, just most of them. I guess I could say that, just to, you know, kind of put some people at peace. But yeah, it's a lot of this stuff is frustrating, and you know, I have a lot of people that I meet through social media that, you know, in different states, like, how are you living out there, you know? And it's like,
I was just thinking the same thought.
Well, no. Yeah. So here, I want to challenge you with something, my man. Here, in the Republic of Texas, we're having a little bit of this border situation. Perhaps you've seen it covered in certain news channels, perhaps even internationally. Here
I'm
recently.
pretty sure Harris is going to travel to that border any day now.
But
I think it's on her plan.
But several, like, we just had, you know, some local elections, you know, a little bit ago. Several towns along the border that were staunchly Democratic have flipped to more conservative values because of how changes in policy have affected them. And, you know, we have a saying that we like to tell, you know, people that come from states like, say, California. It's like, remember that you are a refugee from your location, not a missionary. And, you know, I think when we were in the Army and we do command climate surveys and stuff like that, you know, people that, you know, always like, this wasn't the best unit, but like, well, what are you doing to change it? You know, like, when you see these failed policies, you know, to not go about it in an I told you so manner, but as an evangelist of change, like, because California is one of the most beautiful places in the country. Like, the climate, when you look at like the outdoors aspect of it, the things that you can do, it's one of the most gorgeous, one of the most fertile, you know,
we got everything
one of the
out
most
here.
fertile places of our country. Like, we don't need people fleeing there. We need people being more productive there. You know, we need people like, you know, living up. I remember those California like commercials. You know, they got Rob Lowe and they got people, you know, skiing in Tahoe and surfing in Malibu and, you know, riding broncs out in the valley. Like, some of that stuff is like cool, and we want that. But like when people, we learned about it here in Austin. We took on a policy that was a copycat from San Francisco in terms of how people could live their life on public spaces like sidewalks. We allowed the city council passed an ordinance that allowed and decriminalized the camping and the sit, stand, or sleeping on public spaces, sidewalks. And, you know, all of a sudden we have a massive, you know, homeless problem. We have a health crisis because of how the squalor in which they're living. And instead of like getting wild and crazy about it, they called it back to a vote and they repealed it. The same people, you know, like, shall we call them the Bleeding Hearts, if you will? Like, the Bleeding Hearts had a change of heart because, like, they saw the failed practice. And it's okay to learn lessons. When we look at every civilization throughout history, lessons were learned and then they were adapted upon. You know, the Romans took the great aspects of the Greek civilizations and, you know, like, and tried to apply it. You know, the Greeks took, you know, things from the Egyptians, you know, like, and vice versa. You know, it's okay to like fail and improve. But, you know, when you present that failure, don't present it in "I told you so," but present it as like an opportunity to like, hey, like, let's better our unit. Like, what can we do? What can we do to better our unit? Well, we cannot vote for this bullshit. You know, like, we don't like the policies that Gavin Newsom's bringing. Well, we can get rid of them. I mean, how many Democrats are on that 1 million plus signature base? I bet a bit.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't randomly find every Republican in that state to like sign the petition.
Yeah.
But anyway, brother, it's been great seeing you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's been good talking to you, and it's awesome to hear, you know, that you've given to your country and you continue to give to your community, and I know exercising a large degree of patience and teaching these kids and shaping these minds, but at the same time, just like we're leading soldiers, you know, I know there's got to be a huge degree of satisfaction when you see them, and you talked about a little bittersweet, you know, and I know you said that for another reason, but, you know, to see him walk across that stage, to see him move on to life, and know, you know, especially if you saw them when they were at some of their lowest points, right? And just, again, no different than a soldier, no different. And then you bring them up and you're like, they leave the nest and they go off and you know, it'll be just as rewarding when they come back home to visit family and they swing by and see you and you see they've done this and they've accomplished that. I mean, that absolutely has to make all the frustration worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's definitely a huge motivation. That's really the only reward you can ask for, you know, is I tell them all, it's like, go out, be successful, work hard, pay your taxes.
Yeah,
so,
that's it. That's it.
But yeah, it was cool. We just had graduation yesterday, and, you know, it did get a little emotional because I had all those kids when they were freshmen, and now seeing, you know, how far they've come. And it's exciting. Like I said, it's not everybody out here is bad. You know, there is a lot of potential out here. You know, I actually just graduated a girl yesterday, and if she runs for president, I'll probably vote for her. So
that's awesome.
You know, there's a lot of really amazing kids. There are some kids who really do, you know, they really persevere through these struggling areas, and they find a new kind of strength, you know, that most people don't have.
And it gives you strength and motivation because, you know, honestly, right? Honestly, you're gonna look at yourself like, man, I don't have it that bad. Look what that kid did. What am I complaining about, right? It's humbling for us.
She told me that she's like, I just wanted you to know that, you know, you were a great mentor to me. I was like, I just want you to know that you were actually a great mentor to me.
Yeah.
So you don't need to say that to a teenage kid, but it's like, geez,
if it's appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, again, thank you so much. We're going to let you go. Thank you for giving us well over an hour tonight. Good talking to you, and we look forward to having you back on again in the future. Man, it was great talking to you tonight.
Yeah, so get suspended so we can, like, learn.
I probably will.
And once you get you some Alpha Elite 15, get that coupon and let us know. And
get that pipe. Get that pipe hitter.
Get that pipe hitter.
Get that pipe hitter like pre-workout.
Yeah.
I'll check it
that
out.
Stuff is solid. Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man. Take care, guys.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Take care, buddy.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right.
Oh, we're in stereo.
We are in stereo. Okay.
Oh.
There we go. All right, I had to bring it back, man. It's one-handed trying to do video. Okay.
Wayne's World.
Yeah, we have a better show than they do.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, we don't have a couch.
No.
It'd be cooler. And
have
we didn't
two-
have, like, guitars. Like,
We have two.
we have leather.
I feel like I'm on one of-
We have leather.
I feel like I'm one of those Sunday morning talk shows, like where you see that no one watches when you sit around and you interview like authors and.
You mean the show that I host on Sunday mornings?
Oh, my bad.
That's super awkward. I mean.
And you
So
interview-
don't forget to.
And you interview obscure authors and.
Like Dr. Seuss.
Yes. Oh, yes.
No.
Not canceled authors. That's different.
No.
But
no, like
sit back.
everybody, it's good to have Troy here, because these are the moments where we get down and dirty. We used to
We'll just
have,
call this Stew and the Nun.
Yeah, oh man, the studio audience like chimed in.
They knew.
Not the peanut gallery.
No.
There's no Schultz out there.
No.
There's just a shark.
The studio audience. Hold on. Yeah, there they are.
So normally,
Calm down over there. Calm down. There you go. Okay, thank you very much.
well, no,
Take a seat. Take a
You
seat.
should. But we used to do bald men rants, and then it
And
only
you grew your
became
hair out.
bald man rant, and then
This is a rant.
hippie high talk.
Yeah.
For me. But there are a couple of things I want to touch on.
Yeah, let's sit on cars. We're together. We can rant a little bit.
We can rant a little bit. So, in a conversation I was having with somebody, the issue of flags came up, and so I want to talk two different. I have two different things I want to touch on, but the first one's flags, and we have the flag that represents our country.
Yep.
We have the flags that represent our states, minus one. One state does not have a flag. Anybody? What state doesn't have a flag?
I don't know what state doesn't have.
Ohio. It has a guide on.
Oh.
So just a little
There you go.
something. Little
Fun
something,
fact.
Just a little something for y'all there.
Rob was over there going, which state doesn't have a...
Because just a little trivia there, a little shout out to my Ohio people, my favorites. But on flagpoles, there's very established U.S. code about how we present
Fly the U.S. flag.
not just the U.S. flag, how we fly the symbol and the representation of the institution of our country.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't fly it at night unless it's
Without
under
light.
light.
Yeah.
You don't fly it at half mast unless under the direction of it. You just don't make the decision of how you want to fly it. You fly it fully erect. With the exception of the Republic of Texas, the United States flag is higher than any other flag that is flown in the nation, with the exception of visiting dignitaries can have their flag as a place of honor on equal height. Texas also retains the right to fly their flag at equal height because they were a nation prior to the joining of the Union, the United States, sorry.
Yeah.
Not the Union. That's...
I'm with you.
Yeah. You can't just run anything up the flagpole. And the reason you just can't run anything up the flagpole is because, 8-year-old Toby would have put, Captain Jack Rackham's Jolly Roger, up the flagpole and then associated the great country of Canada with piracy. You can't just, pick some flag that you think is cool. And I'm getting to a point here. It's not that these flags don't represent something that is valid, or someone's position that is a valid position for them to hold, that's saying that everybody in the country holds that position.
Right.
It's not an institution.
When it's flown at a national flagpole,
Right.
on national.
So, like, we had the Black Lives Matter flag flown
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
on the pole representing our country. And not only that, representing our country on foreign soil.
Yep. Overseas.
And so, like,
Directed. Right.
directed. And so that is not the appropriate message, and not because I disagree, because that's not what the job of the flagpole is for. The job of the flagpole is not to promote platform, it's to promote patriotism. It's supposed to promote love of country and reflect and honor and is homage to the accomplishment of those before us, not to promote a political agenda.
Right.
It's not the flagpole is not a platform to which you launch into political speech. Now, immediately what happened is you have another group that are like, well, if they get to do that, we should get to do that. And hence why you don't do that. Like, you do not, and it's not because I fear change, but it's like the job of the flagpole isn't to virtue signal.
Right.
The job of the flagpole is to demonstrate that we are still here, that we truly are united, and that we can rally behind the symbol of that unity. I think one of the most romantic but brutal reality stories is the story of the Star-Spangled Banner.
How it came about.
And how it came to be. And we don't have time to get into that. But, all the people that are like, this flag represents hatred, this flag represents, like, that flag represented not forgetting the men in cages on a boat in the bay, because they were going to be executed if that flag failed, if that flag came down. And on those ramparts, we watched, because they were waiting that, and the symbol and the trigger mechanism for the execution of patriots in cages of all colors, all creeds, all religions, was if they could fall that flag on the ramparts. And men gave their life for that flag to remain erect, so that the men inside those cages on that boat did not perish, and not a polite death.
Right.
Like, did not perish a brutal, violent, and lonely end. And so, like, when I hear people, like, getting mad about the national anthem, and I'm a Texas Stars fan, and I fall victim to, like, emphasizing the word stars sometime, but, like, it is truly a wonderful song, and not just because I don't want to offend somebody. Like, that's not the time to protest.
Right.
And when you put a flag on the flagpole, you're making a political statement, or you're protesting, or you're using it as a platform. But that's not what it's for.
There's really only one flag that you see flown on U.S. national flagpoles behind the American flag.
And, well, that's because it's been congressionally chartered.
That's right.
To be allowed to do that. And we're talking about the prisoners of
POW
war missing in
flag,
action.
right.
And that is so that we don't forget
Right.
that we have
But
sons and daughters still unaccounted
But
for
it
out
took
there.
congressional action, not executive order.
No, congressional action.
Not the head of that post office that day, or
Mhm.
nothing like that.
No.
That's the only one you'll see. You won't see Gadsden flag. You won't see Washington's tree. You won't see all these other patriotic flags. You won't see the join or die. Nothing like that.
No.
The POW, which are all founding flags of our country, but you'll see just the POWMA. So to fly anything else that did not go through the same rigor and a process that went through.
and these other flags, while I love the stories behind some of them, there's several flags in Texas that I just absolutely adore. One, a Goliad being one, like it's a white flag with a severed arm with a sword, symbolizing like I would rather cut my right arm off than live under tyranny. That what a beautiful message, and it was an official flag. When you look at the Gonzales flag, come and take it. It's an official flag, but it's not appropriate to be flown because, and it should not be, because it did not go through that rigorous process, because it doesn't represent the prisoners of war and the missing in action do represent the entire country, because they were lost and they're missing and they were taking for the cause of the greater country.
Right.
Not one people group, not one demographic,
right.
Not one faith, not one race, not one creed, for everybody. And that's why they were able to meet the rigorous and the stringent, scrutiny of getting that approval. The next thing I want to talk about is, and I hope Rob can pull it up. There's a picture of the beginning.
Satellites right now.
Yeah. There's a picture of the opening of a soccer game between, I believe it's England and Poland, and it's a really interesting statement about how the world views different things. In soccer, at the highest levels of soccer in the past year, 2 years, they have taken on the cause of Black Lives Matter, because as good athletes, you should always take up a political cause, and they start the beginning of the game by taking a knee to draw attention to what they feel is the continuation of oppression.
In countries like Poland and England and
England, yeah.
Oh,
in fact, the English Premier League, where Black Lives Matter, armbands, and it's in the stands, and apparently slavery was a really big deal there, and they fought a war over it. Apparently,
I did not realize it was that big of a deal there.
It's not.
Okay.
But the reason I want to talk about this is because England, the English players, took a knee to bring light to the cause of Black Lives Matter, which, there's a big difference between the movement and the organization. I think the organization's proven itself to be, somewhat of a fraud and charlatans and filled with hatred.
And taking a lot of money.
But the Polish team, they did not take a knee. In fact, they wore armbands, and they all put their hands on the armbands. What is it do you think those armbands symbolized?
I can't imagine.
And this happened in the past. This happened in the past week, and I'm hoping Rob can find it and share it in the chat room.
His fingers are on fire right now. Typing it up.
If he was Jamie from the Joe Rogan Experience, he'd already be up.
Well,
But
they pay her a little bit more.
Yeah. That gets a shit ton of free weed, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
we got nothing for you, Rob.
We make Rob pay for it.
Yeah.
It's really bullshit. But no, the reason I bring it up is because, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not Poland. I thought it was Poland, but maybe it's Belgium or. But there's a reason I brought it up, and it's timely for what happened last week. The other nation's team were drawing attention to the armbands, and it was out of, what was it?
Munich.
Germany?
Bayern Munich players wore Black Lives Matter armbands.
No, wrong.
Not that one?
No, this was the English national team, and it happened within the last week, and so while he's finding that, I'll just explain what it was. The Polish team, I believe it was the Polish team, and I'm ready to be corrected on it. They wore armbands and they touched them, but it wasn't to celebrate a political agenda. It was to say thank you for the other team's soldiers on D-Day fighting for their liberation. And so to this day,
So is then
decades and decades later, in their hearts, they're still grateful for the effort of the men that happened
to be
a week
British
ago,
soldiers.
60, 70 years ago, 77 years ago. You know, and they're still, that's what is important for them to look across at their adversary on this field of play to say, while we're engaging in competition, I'm grateful that I have this life because my dad lived thanks to you.
Or your
And
dad.
your dad, your grandfather, your...
What was on the armband?
And
It was respect.
Yeah,
Picking it up.
it was, and I was like, what a nice gesture.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how cool is that? And then it's like, the guys that they're saying it to are like on the knee for something.
Now, do they take a knee during their national anthem?
No, they do not take a knee during the national anthem. They don't disrespect the national anthem. They
At
take
least
it,
they don't disrespect
they take a knee at the beginning of the game. So what the game officially starts, they do not engage in play until they
I'd be
they've taken
racking
a
up
knee.
goals on them. Man. That's
Well,
okay.
I mean, there's been like a dude didn't wait. They all took a knee, and he was like, "Here I go," and he thought it was funny, and I did too. But like,
But that says it does
Yeah.
say a lot. I mean, that's right up there when you remember this from a couple of years ago in the hockey world, and I don't remember what teams it was, but it was in a National Hockey League, and it was an American team and Canadian team, which really means it was two Canadian teams because the American team was probably full of Canadians.
1.75
Yeah.
Canadian teams.
And the loudspeaker went out, the speaker system when
Yeah.
the U.S. national anthem was on.
Yeah, and the Canadian team sang it.
No, the Canadian. It was in
the
Canada.
crowd, the Canadian
It
crowd.
was in.
Yeah.
It was like Calgary or
Yeah,
Edmonton.
the
or something
Canadian
like that.
crowd. Yeah.
And the entire probably 18,000 people in the crowd.
Well, it's a Canadian arena, so it was probably 9 or 10.
Say you got the conversion rate, yeah. But they all popped in.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be honest, right? When I used to go to games, right, and it's just the arrogance of being American. We'd go to hockey games and we stand up for the national anthem, and then the Canadian, we just kind of stand there. We're like, okay, well, it ain't our anthem.
You did not learn it.
No, you do. After you go to enough games, you learn it, right? By osmosis. You just
Yeah.
hear it enough. You're like, oh, Canada. Yeah, you get done. And then, but I saw that, and I remember when that happened. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. And you just see this entire stadium full of Canadians singing the national anthem. It brought tears to me. It really did. And it changed me from that point on every time the Canadian national anthem went. When I go on, I stand up and I give that Canadian national anthem as much respect as I give the U.S. It humbled me and showed me, look what they did. They didn't have to.
So-
but to do that showed me, and this wasn't like right after 9/11. This wasn't
No.
like, this was just a few years ago. They just stepped forward and said, we're going to sing it because the loudspeaker system went.
So, as a child, I was taught several national anthems
Yeah.
as part of education. So obviously the Canadian national anthem that was kind of mandatory.
Right.
Another mandatory one was "God Save the Queen,"
Yeah.
and we were strongly encouraged to learn the Star Spangled Banner. We also
Really?
learned the French national anthem, but the Star Spangled Banner, and it was, highly recommended, because that was our closest neighbor, and to show respect, not for the purpose of allegiance, but to show respect, and we would play American teams, and I was close to the Canadian-American border in terms of the northern border, and I mean like the Alaskan border.
Right.
That we would engage in sporting activities, against American athletes, and to show respect and to not disrespect their country. Even though we were just kids, we were to respect, those across the field from us, and I don't think we teach. I mean, we might not even teach the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't think they do. I don't think many schools.
In Texas, they do. They also teach the
In the
Texas
the Christian
Pledge.
schools, they do.
And there's a moment of silence too.
In the Christian schools that I think most of Christian schools, in the private schools, they still do it, but not in public schools.
They don't do the
People will
Pledge.
take knees, sit down, do whatever. Yeah, not like we grew up. We grew up, which that was every morning, right? You come to class, bell rang,
Boom.
you were up.
Yeah.
There wasn't no, oh, you're Muslim, you're Hindu, you're this, you're that. No, we stand up, you say the Pledge of Allegiance. It was muscle memory, right? Just like on a military base, movie theater, Bring a civilian to military movie base. She's like, what's going on? Stand your ass up. It's the national anthem. It's a military base movie theater. We were standing up. We had the national anthem. Even if you walk in there with your boys and you snuck a few beers in and that kind of stuff.
You waited
You
till
waited.
after. You waited.
Now, as soon as that national
waited.
anthem ended, when the credits started,
Yeah.
but, you know.
You didn't engage in Edward 40 hands in the movie
No.
in a military movie theater. You did in a civilian, but you didn't do it in military. The other thing is like those little traditions, like you know, taps. You know, like you stopped. You
Or
did-
retreat.
to the colors retreat.
Yeah.
You know, like you stopped for those two, but I mean at night at 11 o'clock. You know, when taps is
Rings
sounded,
across the base.
like you're not, if you're in mid keg stand and that goes off, like you dismount.
You just
Yeah,
you can climb back up there later.
Energetically, you dismount.
Yeah.
You cease and desist what you're doing, you know, because like
The best was seeing a civilian on a base or riding with you and like, you know, the colors. And like everyone just stops out and starts to like, what's going on? Everyone's getting out. It's like, oh, get your ass out the car. We got to, you know, flag poles right there. And they would just look and be amazed at like everything stops.
Yeah.
Everyone gets out.
the playground.
Yeah.
The playground would stop. The kids were taught to identify important things.
And it didn't mean that you loved the president. It didn't mean you loved you didn't have to love the army. You didn't have to do whatever. It was a sign of
And the
respect.
only one that didn't stop was that sergeant major yanking out the other person that didn't stop.
Yeah. And sergeant majors had like an exemption for like grass and not
Rock
standing
painting.
still. Yeah, not standing still at certain moments. No, like that's one of the reasons why, you know, January 6th was offensive to so many people. Not
From all sides.
from all sides, was because the American flag was then associated, or there was this you know, alluding to that the American flag
As
was complicit
As we saw it being jabbed at
Yeah.
people
Yeah. and beating,
smashed through the
and-
window
and beating
things.
people.
Yeah.
Like the flag, you know, we can't hold the flag responsible for the action of a few, because the action of the many and the action of the great, the action of the brave should speak louder than a couple of knuckle dragging
Jackwagons with painted faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think January 6th offended so much more than, you know, people's thoughts or views on an election outcome, or whether they thought it was stolen, or they didn't think it was stolen, or, you know, they thought someone was being a sore loser or someone was being a sore winner. No, I feel that in my experience, in my exposure, and those I've talked to, it was a far greater offense that the flag was involved.
And people had it tied on them. They were climbing up
Yeah.
things and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It was it gave it a stain
Yeah.
by being associated with that, even though it was innocent. It was being dragged. If
Yeah.
you were to look at it as a being, it was being dragged along
Yeah.
and didn't have a choice. Right.
And-
It was almost like having a baby in the back of a car in a car chase. It ain't the kid's fault. Like some idiot's driving the car. But the flag's seen it, and people go, "Oh, that's that January 6th crowd. Oh, you're this."
And here's the thing: is like you can't. They're trying to demonize the flag, and we were talking earlier about, you know, people being offended by the flag. I don't want it flown on my campus because it represents this. It's like, no, like it does not represent that.
Right.
You know, like, and don't try to.
In the grand scheme of
but
time
who's
of
defending? Who's defending her?
Right. In grand scheme of time of this country, that one thing isn't even a hint of a blimp on the radar of what that flag stands for.
Who? But who's defending her? Like, and it shouldn't. You should be able to stand up and defend her.
Right.
And I'm not talking about like some Toby Keith lyrics. I'm talking about like the flag is bigger than our political beliefs.
Right.
It's not
far.
greater than our political system, and I'm not talking one of systemic. I'm talking about the political system that makes us the bright, shiny city on the hill. Like, and we need a defender more. And when people try to invoke, this association, be like, no sir, no ma'am. Like,
It's like
if you can say that, like, not all cops are bad, then when you can say not all flag bearers are bad.
right.
Like,
Well,
and we need a defender.
And whether you say not all cops are bad, not all Muslims are bad, not all protesters are bad, whatever, right? They're
It's
not.
the one thing that we all stand under.
Right. Yeah.
We all stand under it.
Well, hey, we've been going an hour 40.
Oh man.
It's been a long one. We thank everyone. I think it's time to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody that was tuned in tonight. Big thank to Mr. Esparza. He was a phenomenal and a great perspective. We haven't had a teacher on here in a long time, a really long time. And it was great to get his perspective, especially in the Socialist Republic of California. And want to thank you guys. Toby, great. Thanks for having down in the Southern Studio. For our studio audience, Rob, the unpaid producer, Doug, the Shard Gear for Grunts Mullen.
Always go to get Gear for Grunt shirts. So not only are they known for the great ramp, but and I believe there's a ramp shirt right there if you want to like bring it over.
In the form of a Jolt Cola parody spoof.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Oh, it's green. So
it's,
that doesn't.
it doesn't. Oh, it's so cool.
Oh,
Just the
wow.
ramp shows up.
Just the ramp. The ramp.
Just the logo.
And just the logo. Now, that
So
looks
get
cool.
this invisible shirt.
Invisible.
Get this invisible shirt.
Yes.
At gearforgrunts.com.
That's right. You wear that.
All the stops.
That's how good Gear for Grunts and Kermode is.
Not
It makes
radioactive or anything.
it makes your shirt makes you invisible.
Yeah.
is-
That's a whole new
The Army is
technology.
now changing their uniform yet again.
Yeah.
Right now, every soldier is going to have to go out and buy 3 sets of that next year.
So he put that Predator technology on that shirt. Right.
That's right.
And who made that? That's right. Kermode.
Also invisible.
You want that Predator technology. You just come on down and get customized.
That's it.
But great having you in the headquarters here.
Yep.
Excited. We got some big things brewing.
Yep, we got some things coming.
In terms of show formatting, so look forward to hearing about that in the next little bit. But
We'll be
as
back
always,
next Thursday.
And for those of you interested, he did bring me some of his special meat.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I never come to Texas without bringing some of the best venison jerky you've ever had.
And
right
and
there.
it is. It's
Then-
got a special spot in my stomach.
There we go. And in his mouth.
And what I love the venison jerky in my mouth.
That's it. And Sarah Lee also. She's a big fan. She'll be
Yeah.
jealous that I brought you some. But a good shout out to her. And thank you to everyone that tuned in. It was a long show. Be sure and tune in next Thursday here on Stu and the Nunn. Next Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern, here Stu and the Nunn. We look forward to seeing you then. So until then, we hope everybody has. I just realized I did not have outro music ready to go. Like everything, we're going to have a little tech thing. But anyways, wish everyone has a great night. We'll see you all next week.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Kermode Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.